Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
What is love? Love is something that brings life, is life in its truest form. Whether you watch a flower petals open, whether you watch the rain fall, whether you watch a sunset, whether you watch new babies of any species, we're able to see love unfolding. Which is why all of those are moments that fill all of us with such joy, with such peace. It's like each of them is an example, a manifestation of the love of the Creator into the creation. None of them would be possible without great love flowing through the universe. Love is that which connects us to each other. But in order to really do that, and the greatest hindrance that we have to love is love can only happen spirit to spirit, heart to heart. When we love only the form, it's objectification. It's what we call lust. Lust isn't only sexual or sensual. Lust is that my attachment to you, my yearning for you, is based on the object of who you are. That object is somehow going to give me something. Sensual, sexual pleasure is only one of those things. If what I need from you, what I'm looking for from you, is just from your form, this is objectification. It's not love. But we mix it up with love so frequently because what happens is most of us move through the world not feeling whole. The beautiful mantra that Nandini began with, Purnamada. It's a mantra that reminds us how whole and complete we are. The mantra basically says that, the capital T, that, is infinite. Whole, complete, perfect, full, divine. And this, which has been removed from that, taken from that, or you could say created by that, out of that, is also whole, full, perfect, complete, and divine. It reminds us that as we've been created by fullness, when you remove fullness from fullness, fullness still remains. It's the same thing we're taught in math class. Infinity minus 10 is still infinity. Infinity divided by 7 billion is infinity. So if we've been created by that which is infinite and full, regardless of how many of us there may be, the laws of science and math tell us the same thing the laws of spirituality do, which is that creation is also full and whole and complete. And yet, the vast majority of us go through our lives forgetting that. So we feel less than full, less than complete, less than beautiful, less than perfect, less than worthy. Then we meet someone in whose presence we're able to access a place in ourself that feels love. A place in ourself that is love. A place in ourself that's lacking nothing. That's overflowing, rather. Because when we're in love, we overflow. Not just to the loved one. We all have seen so many situations where a friend or a coworker or a colleague comes into the office one day or into school one day, and we automatically know, she's in love. He's in love. Right? It just, even if the beloved isn't there with them, it oozes out of us. We fall in love. We become very good tippers in the restaurant. We fall in love. We're suddenly helping people across the street. We fall in love. We're suddenly forgiving anyone and everyone who wrongs us in any way. Because that love, although sparked by one person, has actually just connected us to a place in ourself which is love. But what's happened is we've hooked our experience of love into that person. You make me feel full. And so then when that person does something that no longer makes us feel full, the pain that we experience is because we've attached our experience of love to that person's actions. They told us we were beautiful. We felt whole. We felt full. We felt complete. We felt love. Now they no longer tell us that. We say, you've changed. Something's happened. And that's a very emotionally loaded point because inherent in it is, you've changed so I no longer am able to access that place of love in me. Well, what that makes us know is, it wasn't full love to begin with. All it was is that through that person we were able to access that place, which doesn't mean it's wrong. Any way we can get there is great, because ultimately the goal is accessing that place within us. Whether we get there through a sunset, a baby's eyes, a puppy dog, or a human beloved, they're all taking us to that same place within ourselves. The only problem comes when I've attached my experience of love to what you do or say or don't do or don't say. Then I've lost the love. I've shortchanged myself. I've deprived myself of this incredible experience that I'm actually generating from within. And I've said it's all about you and your actions. Which means when you stop acting like that, or speaking like that, I no longer feel love. And this is where we start to fight. Because I need you. I need you to act in a certain way or speak in a certain way so that I can feel love. And this is where our relationships fall apart. What love is both the means and the end. It's a joyous means, it's a joyous journey, it's a joyous path. Being in love is wonderful. But we have to remember, it's not only the means, it's also the end. That experience of love is the whole point. What got us there, how they're now acting, what they're now saying, is not the point. How can we stay connected to that place of love within us? And that's the key. Love is each of our true natures. It's who we are. Which is why being in love feels so good. But what we have to remember is that the source of that is within us. And that's why they say, when you give love, that's what you get. So many of us do the opposite. We go through the world feeling like, why am I not getting love? Because we're not giving love. Through giving it, it activates that source within me. So whether the recipient is receiving it with open arms or not receiving it at all is not the point. The point is that I've activated that source. So we just become love. Some of those in our auric field will pick it up and respond with love. Some will not. Some will be like flowers who open their petals. Some will be like brick walls. But that's the nature of the universe. And ultimately the point is not whether I'm giving love to a flower whose petals are opening and gives me fragrance in exchange because, well, I've given something so I should get something back, like this is a two-way street. That's what causes love to unravel. Because then I'm not acting from source. I'm acting from the brain that's calculated how much love I've given and how much fragrance I've gotten back. When we act just from source, we just are love. And the fact that it causes flowers to blossom and people to open is a bonus. We are the first recipients of that. That love is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. Having it connect with others is a bonus byproduct. We are the first recipients of that. So don't rely on anyone else. That source is in you. And if you can, as spirit, as essence, connect to the spirit and essence of others, then we just get more, because then it's coming both from our source, and we are able to be the flowers who blossom in the presence of other people's love. So then we get it from within, and we get it from without. Whether it's other people emanating love, whether it's the rain, whether it's the sunsets, whether it's random babies' beautiful faces, whatever it is, we're able to pick up love wherever we go in the universe.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Pray for something from God? Or is it that whatever we've gotten is due to our past karma anyway? So what role does prayer or God have in this? Is it that we pray for a certain thing or pray for a certain situation, or just that it's all karma? Prayer plays a very, very deep and important role in our life. But the role is not to change our external circumstances. So it's not, oh dear God, please make me 6 foot tall, or oh dear God, please make me 20 years old again, or oh dear God, please give me a singing voice that sounds like Mataji's, or oh dear God. It's not that. God could do anything. God is infinite. But for our own spiritual growth, the highest level is not about going to God like he were Santa Claus or someone with a magic wand and it was just all about giving us what we wanted if we were good enough for it. Ultimately, what the prayers to God should be, and this is what changes our circumstances amazingly, is, oh dear God, help me recognize who I am, the truth of who I am. Help me see the beauty and wholeness and perfection in who I am. Help me unfold and blossom into the greatest perfection that I can be. And mostly, oh dear God, let me just be a tool in your hands. That's the highest prayer, is just to connect with God. Pujya Swamiji always says, when you talk to God, it's prayer. When God talks to you back, it's meditation. So when God answers our prayers, what we get is not a castle, not a mansion, not a Mercedes, not a perfect figure. But what we get is meditation. And what is meditation? That deep experience of the peace, the love, the wholeness, the consciousness that we really are. So prayer is very, very important when we utilize it to just go to God. It connects us to God. It's the way of talking to God. But for so many of us, our lives have become just ways of getting what we want. And so whether it's we're hungry, so we go through the nearest drive-through. How can I get my stomach filled quickly? We want something. How can I just go online and order it? Everything has become this immediate gratification. One of the examples that we talk about frequently is the example of a vending machine. And for so many of us, we've learned to see the world, the universe, as a vending machine. And so we want something. And what we're told is, if you just do this prayer, say this mantra, get this degree, look like this, whatever our metaphoric dollar bill is, you put that into the machine, you push the button, you should get out whatever you want. And if you don't, it's that you've got the wrong mantra or a certificate in the wrong thing or the wrong guru, or you're praying to the wrong God. Because our whole model has become getting what we want. It's all about just fulfilling our desires. Or as Puja Swamiji says, getting our lists. That we go to God with a list. But instead of that, if we recognize that connection with the divine is actually not the means but the end, that is the goal, that when we are connected with the divine, everything else is automatically there, then suddenly there is no list. Then suddenly it's not about, oh God, now that we're connected, could you please, get my kid into the college he's trying to go to? Could you please get my landlord to stop harassing me for my rent? Could you please, take off the 10 pounds I gained over the holidays? Suddenly none of those things matter because we're connected to the source. And so we pray, yes, and it changes our circumstances, yes, not because we've prayed for the outer circumstance to change, but through our connection with God, our own mind has changed. And since our mind has changed, our reality has changed. We are creating our realities. So it changes. So it's neither about just a sense of accept it and never try to change it, nor is it about asking God to change it. It's about asking God to give us that level of connection, to give us that level of awareness, that level of experience of who we are, through which our vision changes, through which who we are changes. And as we change, so do our circumstances.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
We're told when thoughts come, as inevitably they will, that we're not supposed to pay attention to them, that we simply allow them to just flow through our consciousness. And she said, but sometimes when I have to make a decision, an inner voice will come. And she said, sometimes I ignore that also. But how do you know when you're supposed to listen to that voice, when it's really the voice that's supposed to guide you? It's a wonderful question, because in meditation, so frequently, the answers to things that have been troubling us at other times will just spontaneously arise. Our own mind tends to be our own worst enemy, and in most cases, the answers to that which troubles us are not rocket science. The path is actually very frequently quite clear. And yet, our own minds, our own fears, our own desires, our own confusion, our own programming, whether from our families, whether from our culture, whether from society, we've all absorbed quite a bit of programming. And so all of that swirls around in this mess in our minds, preventing us from being able to see what so frequently really is a very clear path, or the clear decision. And when we sit to meditate and the mind stills, that answer becomes obvious. It's not that we're trying to figure it out in our meditation, but just in that space that we've created by slowing the mind and stilling the mind, the answer comes. This is beautiful when it happens. And of course, one doesn't want to push away truth. It's not, well, I've made a decision, I'm not going to have any thoughts, so even, if God is shouting at me, I'm going to tell him to be quiet, I'm meditating. What I can share with you typically is when real truths come, real answers come, they don't necessarily come so verbally. The overly verbal mind tends to be that which is overeducated, over-indoctrinated, over-analyzed, over-analyzing. And it's that which intrudes on our meditation. When truth shows, it tends, at least for me, to show just, it's a vision, it's an awareness, it's a palpable realization rather than a lecture. So it's not that there's somehow now a voice that's lecturing me in my mind, but simply rather that, like petals of a flower have opened and now you can see what's inside, or leaves of an onion have opened and you can see what's inside. It's much more like that. And so it doesn't disrupt the meditation so much because it's not this verbal lecture that's like, yeah, you know, and the reason that you haven't gotten it for so long is you're an overthinking, over-analytical, worthless being. And, you know, it doesn't come like that. When it does, that's when we know it's just another thought to let breeze by. That's not our inner voice, but it's the inner critic, which of course also has a voice. So it can get a little tricky when we talk about the inner voice. Well, our inner critic, inner commentary, also is speaking from within. So the sheer fact that it comes from my own brain doesn't mean that it's the divine voice. When it does, when it is that divine awareness, again, from my own experience and from that which I've heard from others, it doesn't come as a lecture that disrupts you. Rather, it's like a path is clearing and something that wasn't visible becomes visible. Something was covered, it's no longer covered. Blinds that were closed are now open. And so it's something that you're able to see. You behold it, but it's not an intrusive thought. And you're able to just kind of allow it to be there. And sure, there is a part of the mind that goes, oh. And then you know that when you come out of your meditation, you're going to come back to that. But it's not disruptive. So we try not to be so strict and so hard and fast in our meditation that when something comes that really is very beautiful and very beneficial and God-sent, we don't push it away. It's not, well, I'm meditating on my breath. So when God speaks to me, I'm going to ignore him so I can go back to my breath. The whole point of all of the techniques, whether we're paying attention to our breath, whether we're watching a candle, whether we're reciting a prayer, with mantras, they have the ability also of just stilling the mind like these things. But they also have in and of themselves a very alchemic magic. But in general, all of these meditation techniques are just ways to get the mind to become still. So that the truth, which is so obvious, which is so simple, which is not nearly as complex or esoteric as people who would like to sell you something, would like to make you believe. It's just a matter of quieting the brain enough that you can see it. So as you meditate and you get quiet, that truth absolutely may reveal itself. Allow it. But, and the last piece is, but when it does reveal itself, remember you're meditating and not analyzing. So it's not that the truth reveals itself and then you say, oh my God, wow, I've waited so long. I wonder why it took so long for this truth to reveal itself. All right, so the minute I'm done meditating now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up. So we don't do that. We're still meditating. We don't shift into planning mode or analyzing mode or judgment mode. We allow the awareness, knowing full well that it's going to be there when we come out of our meditation. And then we go back, whether it's to the breath, whether it's to the mantra, whether it's to a prayer. Mr. America or Miss Universe. These are labels. We've come in and we've said Wealth is good. Poverty is bad. Health is good. Sickness is bad. Beauty is good. Lack of current beauty standards is bad. Because we don't even agree on what beauty is. So to talk about it as good or bad is a place we can't even go. We can only say, this city, this culture today, beauty standard is good. Otherwise, bad. To have the use of all 4 limbs is good. Not to have the use of all 4 limbs is bad. And since we've put these arbitrary, subjective labels on them, we've also then insinuated that if it's bad, well, there must be some reason you've got something that's bad. You must have done something bad. And it fits our concept, this very linear concept of black and white, and rewards and punishments. But that's not how the universe works. There's 2 forces at work in the universe. There's actually probably many more, but there's 2 I'm going to speak about. One is the simple science of karma. What that science says is, if you plant an apple seed, you will have an apple tree. There is no subjective label of that. The apple tree is neither good nor bad. It is neither a reward nor a punishment. It is simply the natural outcome of the planting of an apple seed. In the same way, the actions that we do have repercussions. If I sow the seeds of love, of sharing, of giving, of compassion, that's the fruit I'm going to reap. If what I share is love, what I'm going to receive is love. If what I share is compassion, what I'm going to experience in the world is compassion. It's like that great famous story of the old man who's sitting on the road and a young boy is sitting with him, and a person walks down the road, a pilgrim, and says to the old man, "How's that village down the way?" And the old man says, "Well, where are you coming from?" He says, "Oh, I'm coming from such and such a village." And the old man says, "How was that village?" He says, "Oh, it was horrible. The people there were cruel and mean and rude and nasty, and they were liars." The old man said, "I'm so sorry, but that's what the people in this village are also like." So the guy, of course, wasn't very happy, but he continued along the way. A short time later, another man walked by and says to the old man, "How's the village up ahead?" The old man says, "Well, where are you coming from? How was that?" He says, "Oh, I came from such and such a village. It was so beautiful. The people were so loving, so caring, so generous." And the old man says, "Well, there's good news. That's exactly how the people in the next village are." And the young boy sitting with him says, but there's only one village up ahead. How is it that you told the first guy the people there were horrible, and you told the second guy the people there were so nice? And the old man said, because the first man sees meanness, evokes meanness. The second man sees love, evokes love. It's like when Puja Swamiji always says, if we're in peace, what do we share? We share peace. We exude peace. We manifest peace. When we are in pieces, We share and manifest and exude pieces. So the law of karma says what I do, what I plant, what I share is going to have repercussions. It's like Newton's law of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so that's karma. It also, you'll note, has nothing to do with rewards or punishments. You got a peach tree because you planted peach seeds. I got an apple tree because I planted apple seeds. You didn't get the peach tree because God was happy with you and unhappy with me. Or your stars were in the right place, my stars were in the wrong place. You chanted the right mantra, I chanted the wrong mantra. We got them because of the seeds we planted. But there's another force at work in the universe, and that force is what we call grace. And we call the purpose of our incarnation, and we call divine force. The whole point of the Leela, of God's divine drama. And the point of that is that we all should wake up. That we all should recognize and experience and know the truth of who we are as divine, as love, as pure consciousness. That we should wake up out of the illusion and the ignorance that we are just this body, that we are just its history, that we are the color of our skin, that we are what we look like, all of that illusion, that we should wake up from it and actually recognize the perfection and the divinity in all of us. That's the moksha, that's the liberation, that's the salvation that we talk about. And with that force, everything we are given, whether it's an apple tree, whether it's a peach tree, whether it's 4 limbs, whether it's 2 limbs, whether it's 1 head or 2 heads, is given to us because that's exactly what we need to take our next step toward that consciousness. And so if what we've been given is poverty or physical challenges, it's not because we've been bad and have been punished or we did some sin. It's because it is through that experience that we will take our next step. It is that exact situation that is the most conducive to our next step to God. That in that experience of challenge, of poverty, of failure, of hurt, of loss, that we take our next step. The only sin is failing to recognize that and failing to use it and seeing it as though you've been punished and therefore missing the entire point. Because then we've missed out not just on that experience but on our entire human birth. Then we spend the entire human birth feeling bitter. Why someone else has 4 working limbs and I only have 1 or 2? Why someone else has such a big bank balance and I have such a small one? Why someone else is successful and I'm not? We're bitter at them, at the universe, at God, at ourselves. So we miss the point of the situation we were given. We don't use it for our awakening. And we make the situation worse and ensure that we're just going to have more and more of these situations by being bitter about it. Because as we all know, until we learn a lesson, the universe has an amazing way of giving us the exact same situation over and over and over. It's not like God says, oh, you didn't like the lesson this way? No problem. Let me cover it with chocolate syrup next time. You didn't get it this time. You're just going to get it in exactly as difficult a way next time until you get it. Because that's the step you have to take. So, in summary, last but very worth repeating, should anyone have missed it, not a handicap, nor poverty, nor any life situation is a punishment for sin. It is, nor is it a reward for good behavior. It is all given to us because it is that situation that is most conducive for our next step. And if what we want in our next step is a peach tree, today we should plant peach seeds.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
I want to thank my mommy for loving me so much,
For taking me to the doctor when I broke my foot.
For leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The question was about a guru. Why do people search for a guru? Why should we have a guru? Why do we need a guru? The word guru literally means the remover of darkness. That's what the word means. And so as we look at it, we ask ourselves, what darkness? What darkness is it that we are needing to remove? In the Indian spiritual tradition, there's not a concept or a teaching of evilness. It's a teaching of ignorance and a darkness of ignorance. And it's that darkness that we need light for. It's not that the core of who we are dark. The core of who we are is all of the same qualities that we worship and envision and connect with the divine. So if you think about the qualities, the characteristics that God has, grace, compassion, love, consciousness, infinity, these are the qualities that we have at the core. That's who we are. We've been created, not just by the Creator, but of the Creator. There's a beautiful, beautiful mantra that teaches us that when you take anything from wholeness, from completion, from perfection, what you get is wholeness, completeness. It's the same thing as if in our elementary school math class, we learned what is infinity minus 100. Infinity. What's infinity divided by 10 or infinity divided by 100? It's still infinity. In the same way, each of us, each of the currently existing 7 billion humans, however many animals, plants, as many as ever existed, everything in the creation has been created not just by the Creator, but of the Creator. And so, at its core, the truth is wholeness, completeness, perfection, light, all of that. And yet, when we speak then about darkness, suffering, that would lead us to realize, oh my God, I really need a guru. It's the darkness of ignorance. It's not that the core of who I am is dark. It's not that I need someone to turn me from being dark to being light. It's that I need someone to remove the darkness that doesn't allow me to see the light and to live in the light. That darkness comes when we identify with the body, with this external identity, with what we look like, where we're from, what we own, how much we make. Because all of that is the root of suffering. If you took a poll and we just went around the room and we said, okay, what are you suffering from? What are you suffering from? What are you suffering from? Each of us would give something that has to do with the illusion of thinking that we are the body or we are our relationship. So we might say things like, I'm suffering because my mother-in-law just, she can't let me live my life. She's always criticizing me. Okay, so that's my relationship. What another person says or does has created suffering in me. Or I'm suffering because I worked for 3 months or 3 years on this project. And then someone else put their name on it and took it to the boss. So again, the suffering is because I've identified with the doer of that project, with the person who didn't get the raise or the promotion or the credit. Or I'm suffering because, it was the holiday season and I gained 10 pounds and now none of my clothes fit and I feel really, really ugly when I look in the mirror. So again, I've identified with something that's outside. So for each of us sitting here, we'd have a different cause of suffering, but each of them would be due to something that's connected to the physical body, that's connected to my identity and how it relates to others, that's connected to this sense of I as a separate being, therefore entitled to my raise, to my promotion, to my recognition, to my slender figure, to all of the things that I've identified as uniquely entitled to. So that's the darkness. The light is who I really am, which is that wholeness, and is that completeness, and is that perfection, and is that wears this body just like it's worn so many other bodies during this life and past lives, that has current relations just like in so many lifetimes it's had so many. But it's not who I am. If I identify as a doctor, or even I identify as someone's wife or mother or child, or I identify as beautiful or rich or smart. Well, at some point that's going to shift. My relationship will shift. I'll retire from my job. I'll no longer look in the mirror and see someone I identify as beautiful. The stock market will crash. I'll no longer be able to identify as rich. And if I've thought that that's who I am, then not only have I lost a job or lost a relationship, have an empty nest, lost my money, lost my looks, but I've also lost me. Anything that shifts in any of that, I go with it because I've hooked my identity into those things. And that's what causes suffering. And so that's the darkness. And then the light that the Guru brings is actually, and it's very telling, the word means remover of darkness, not the creator of light. And even though they may sound sort of synonymous, because either you've got darkness or you've got light, and so either we could say one who removes the darkness or one who creates the light, they're actually not synonymous. The light has always been there, but we cannot see it. We do not live in it. And what the Guru does is removes the darkness so that we can see the light.